Hello, welcome to the Hard Reset. What just happened?
So, if you could, tell me about Carl Jung, what you know about him.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background with it is my minor was in psychology. And for whatever reason, I always have these weird things like rattle around in my head from 20 years ago, 30 years ago or something.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking about this Carl Jung, he's a psychiatrist / psychoanalyst. He was like a protege of Sigmund Freud in the early 1900s. And even Sigmund Freud said that he basically thought Carl Jung was going to continue his work. We all we all know that Sigmund Freud had some really wacky ideas, but he wrote this Carl Jung guy wrote this thing talking about the shadow. He called it the shadow. And it was basically like a part of your brain that's kind of impulsive. And so it's like that part of your brain that somebody says something to you and you think in your mind what you really want to say, but you don't say it in social situations kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And it really pertained back then. It doesn't really pertain. I don't think Carl Jung could foresee the internet per se. Whereas I don't think he realized that there was going to be a wall between you and someone else that would allow you to allow this shadow, this beast out, if you will. So his idea is basically he was talking about, in order to be essentially be a better person or be socially acceptable, because you can't be impulsive. You have to instead of blurting out, you're a dumbass. Or what you really want to say to somebody while you're talking to them.
Yeah.
In order to be socially acceptable, you basically say, well, that's unfortunate, so you come up with these catchphrases and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's in a nutshell, because it goes way deeper than that. But I was thinking about him talking about the shadow and how he describes it and how, there's society's norms won't allow you, to do certain things, or you can do it. But again, back in his day, in the early 20s, if you impulsively said something, there was a reaction to it. You got punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? There was a real reaction to it.
Right. For every action, there is a reaction.
Now we're seeing this shadow being predominant and ugly, rearing its ugly head, if you will, because now you have the advent of social media and the internet.
Right.
Whereas now, like we were talking about before, is you can be sitting in your mom's basement and speak on things about some titan of industry and tell him how he could have done his how he could have ran his business better, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's super cliche. Everybody talks about the dude in his mom's basement, right? But there's dudes out there. Yeah, there's seriously dudes out there that sit in their mom's basement and they speak on things about SpaceX and whatnot.
Oh gosh, what?
I read an article once about rocket science.
Yeah.
So suddenly I'm a rocket scientist. And so then they put some hateful, and it basically that with that shadow, the shadow's coming out, and people are saying and unfortunately the social media, I believe in general, kind of brings out the worst in people.
Yeah. Real quick to give somebody, people some context on that. So back to the SpaceX thing real quick.
Yeah.
And people just talking out on it.
Yeah.
So I did see Elon had tweeted out, hey, we're getting ready to send this. This has been a while back ago after they did so many missions up to the International Space Station. And some guy was like, well, that's all great, but you can't even make a toilet work in space. That's why the capsule smells like urine. And I think their engineers did a really good job with their reply, because I probably would just me being me, I would have flew off the handle and did everything I should not do or say. But their engineers were like, well, you know what? With all designs, there's going to be some flaws, and it takes time to fix these things or to get it right. Everything and anything that has ever been invented was not, just
it didn't
out of the gate.
On the first shot.
Yeah.
God forbid.
But unfortunately, you've got this kid, whatever. And that's where I'm going to say he's probably living in his grandma's basement. He's like, hey, grandma, throw me down some meatloaf whenever he's done playing his video game, or in between, clan wars or whatever.
This shadow that we're talking about from Carl Jung, basically that the point of that is in order to be a better human being or whatever, part of the deal is not being spontaneous. In other words, not blurting out why didn't you can't even put a, toilet in outer space, right? Back then you couldn't say something like that because you were face to face with a person. And they'd be like,
Right.
well, we've done, 300 trials or whatever on whatever, and we're still trying to figure this out. And this is the reason why. And it most likely would have shut the person down.
Right.
But do you have this sense of, entitlement or like whatever else, like they feel like they could just speak on, and that's their, God-given right. And that's kind of the flip side of social media is the fact that you can speak on such things. Right.
No, it is. And there's a lot of stuff that I'll talk about personally.
Yeah.
That I'm passionate about. And I'm not an expert on it. I have an opinion about it. And I try to base my so-called opinions on facts.
Yeah.
But I'm not always right. And I'm not always, so I can see how people could feel like that. Yeah. You're just jumping in there blindly without